Alright, everybody, welcome. Welcome to all the transphobes, to everybody that believes in the patriarchy, who believes in white supremacy, who believes in white privilege, and to all the people who are pro-choice, and to everybody who believes that there are unlimited number of genders. This is definitely the right place for you. Welcome. I'm David Sun. I'm the Chinese historian. And at the start of the video, I want to mention something extremely important, which is our media. There's something the media never talks about. Did you know that just a few months ago, one of the worst mass shootings in America took place in Alabama at a Sweet 16 birthday party? 87 shots were fired. I believe there were anywhere between 30 to 35 people shot, and there were 4 victims. But none of the major news networks reported this case. Do you know why? Because it was a black on black crime. All 3 perpetrators were black males, and all 4 victims killed were black victims. Now, it's very interesting. Something I want to mention is that if you look at the US demographics, this is extremely sad, extremely depressing, and I have been to the hood. I've been many parts of the hood throughout the United States. It is way worse than anything I could have ever imagined. Did you know that there are estimated to be 2 million more black women than black men? Do you know what happened? They have all been killed. Vast majority of those, over 90% of them, they have been killed by black on black crimes. Why is nobody addressing this? If you really want to fix the problem, you have to look at the issue and the root cause. How come those lives don't matter? By the way, also I want to mention something regarding racism, the Black Lives Matter movement. Do you know who founded Black Lives Matter? It was founded by 3 black lesbians. Look at their website. They absolutely hate black men, just men in general, any heterosexual man, and they hate the nuclear family. Everything on their website promotes LGBTQ. And do you know Patrice Cullors, the founder? Do you know that she lives in a $3 million home, secluded in a conservative neighborhood? 99.9% of her neighbors are white. And did you know that her friends bought a $6 million mansion as well in the United States? And she has one Canadian friend that bought a $3 million mansion. In 2022, she also paid her brother and her sister each over $1 million in a consulting fee. Boy, did I get into the wrong industry. You know what? Those are just very tiny percentage of the money. You know what's interesting during the summer of 2020? The NBA and NFL, they jumped on the board so fast with this Black Lives Matter movement. Then, let's be honest, this thing raised billions and billions of dollars. Not one penny, not one. $0 has gone towards a black family. Zero, none of it. Do you know where all the money went? With the exception of Patrice Cullors? It went to a Hungarian multi-billionaire by the name of George Soros. By the way, do you have any idea who George Soros is? Why don't you look up his story? Now, I have to be very careful about what I'm about to say, but dig into George Soros. Back when he was a teenager, he was once a loyal supporter of a German National Socialist Party who was led by a very famous Austrian painter with a silly mustache. I want you to look up his story. See, this is the problem. Do you know what's happening in France? I only got to know about this throughout because I learned a little bit of French, because in Canada, like it's mandatory, right? It's like US, you have English and Spanish. In Canada, you have English and French. So I learned a little bit of French on my own. And did you know that in France, there are at least estimated to be 700,000 Chinese people? So that's over 1% of the population. Do you know what the Muslims are doing to the Chinese people over there? They're viciously attacking them, like sending them to the hospital, giving them bloody nose, calling them all kinds of names, calling them coronavirus, all kinds of stuff. None of the French TV networks or news networks are willing to report this because it would be Islamophobic. This is the problem. When you have an issue in the community, you have to talk about it. Do you know why I watch these videos? Those Muslims are attacking the Chinese. It's because they realize something. All of their life, they've been complaining. Oh, they said there's white privilege. They're like, oh, I can never get anywhere in life because I'm not white, because I'm a Muslim. This is why I'm so poor. This is why we live in these communities. Then the Chinese came in. And they studied really hard. They focused on nuclear families. And they went to school. They got their masters. They got their PhD. They become doctors, lawyers, and engineers. And they're driving Mercedes and BMW and Porsche. and they're the ones who living in these super high-end neighborhoods with they got their own fences, security, and everything. And once those Muslims they saw that, that's the reality. It has nothing to do with race. Success has nothing to do with race. Okay, it has everything to do with culture and the love of indoctrination. This is why victimhood is extremely dangerous. You cannot keep telling people that they're oppressed from day one. And now these Muslims are faced with a reality that, you know what, it's not because of white privilege. These Chinese people in France, they're making more money than the white French people, and they're better off, right? And this is what happens when you get rid of all the woke crap, when you actually focus on what is the most important thing in life. It's about the nuclear family. It's about going to school, securing a job, and building a future and provide for your family. This is what I mean. Victimhood is extremely dangerous. And it's the exact same thing that happened in the black community. On top of the fact that 72% of black children are being raised in single mother homes, it's extremely dangerous. To all the people out there who's saying that, listen, single parent homes can work, it is extremely rare. Don't bring up LeBron James. There's only one LeBron James, okay? And that's an extremely rare case, but 98% of the time it cannot work. Look at me. I'm a 31-year-old virgin. And, I'm racking up debt everywhere. I got no help from either one of my parents. I grew up in a household with over 20 divorces. And this is how I ended up. And I tell people, listen, it doesn't matter what circumstances I mean. I keep telling myself right now, I am broke, but I'm never poor. Because poor is victim mentality. If you're poor, you will always be poor. But if you're broke, it's temporary. But if you're poor, that's forever. I was in Memphis, a black majority city. Once I was caught up in a drive-by shooting. People are just shooting up each other in the middle of the day. I go to the Chinese takeout store. There's bulletproof glass everywhere. And there's iron bars. Every single gas station, every single convenience store, even the grocery store checkouts have bulletproof glass. Is that normal? I'm sure throughout the course of this video, you've noticed something on my face, right? I want to tell you about, there was this study done not too long ago in the United States. They took a group of young women and they said, we're going to do a social experiment. We're going to put a fake scar on your face, okay? And we're gonna send you to a job interview. But what these young women didn't notice that at the last moment, right before they went to the interview, production team, they said, we're gonna do a touch up on your scar. But at the very last moment, they didn't get to look in the mirror. They actually wiped the scar off, right? And these women didn't know. They think that they went to the interview thinking that they had a scar on their face the entire time. And they sent in a male interviewer on purpose for this social experiment. All of these women, dozens of women, they all failed miserably. And the first thing they came back, they said was, they called the guy a misogynist. They called the guy a patriarchy. They said he was full of toxic masculinity. They said that the guy was being extremely rude and he was pointing at their faces about their scar. And they said that's the number one reason they failed this job interview. And they said that if the interview was a woman, and they would have gotten the job. They said this is the issue of our society today, and this is what happens, to marginalized individuals. And keep in mind that none of these women actually had a scar on their face. Yeah, every single one of them lied, and this is the dangers of victimhood. You have to understand that you cannot keep telling people that they're victims. And listen, let me ask you this: whose life do you think it was harder? Was it a Jew during the Holocaust? Or being a black person living in America today? You tell me. Is it better to be gay, to be queer, to be trans, anything LGBTQ2S, AI+? Is it better to be in the West? Try to be a transgender in China. Try to be gay in Iran. Why don't you try to be a Muslim in Russia? And see what happens to you. Why don't you try to live in North Korea? And see what happens to your freedom of speech. People keep complaining today. Listen, the West, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, France, UK. This is the best civilization in the world. It is the least racist place in the world. It is the most accepting place in the world, period. In the history of human civilization, there has never been a better place to be. This is why all the immigrants want to come here. This is why all the LGBTQ people want to come here. This is why all the refugees, all the migrants, they all want to come here. Because this is the best civilization in the world. Stop being a victim. You're not a victim. You're not oppressed. You're free. This scar here, you see this? The scar is not there. It's fake. Please remember that. You are not a victim.